Ready Check Radio. Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Relic Grind, Ready Check Radio's Final Fantasy XIV Square Enix podcast. It's Monday, May 2nd, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're doing the show live, twitch.tv/ReadyCheckRadio. This will be the last Monday. My stage show has concluded, so this will be the last Monday show. We will revert back to our normal Thursday schedules next week. On May 12th will be the next show. So we got a little over a week and a couple of days before we get to the next show. And then May 19th will be our third installment of Final Fantasy Jeopardy! The contestants are locked in. Kronos and Mr. Happy awaiting the third finalist in our Tournament of Champions. It will be decided here live Thursday, May 19th. We'll have Ginger Prime will be getting his second shot at redemption there against Fusion and Rook. I don't think I need to give them any introduction in the Final Fantasy XIV world. So look forward to it. And Gaming Gumbo, of course, back on schedule as normal on Saturdays. It's been a bit chaotic over the last 3 to 4 weeks. Thank you for the hosts and for you bearing with me while I did a stage show there. As you can tell, my voice a little out there, so I'm going to let the guys do a lot of talking today as we go through our Final Fantasy XIV 6.1 review. Spoilers warning, it's been long enough. There's probably one, right? One real spoiler-ish thing that, maybe if you've never played other Final Fantasies, it could we'll get to it. But if you are watching us on YouTube or listening on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, wherever, head on over to the website there, readycheckradio.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see all the socials, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, all the audio versions. Give us a follow, give us a like, give us a sub, and help the channel grow. Gentlemen, are you ready? It's been a while. Let's start with Mr. Chris Montoya, a.k.a. Tarkoth. What's up, sir?
Hello, greetings, programs. It's been a while. I'm glad to be back. And, this patch brought one of the cutest moments that I can remember in 14.
Oh?
Who doesn't love water, froth, and foam?
Yeah.
I love you, Stola.
Yeah.
Love you, Stola.
Yeah, that poor little guy.
She's got layers.
She sends two of them in, and one of them's going to be okay, and you're just like, that other one's not. That other one's not. He's
going to come back.
He's not going to be okay. And then the way
childhood trauma.
And then in the damn scene, they just let him lay there on the floor for the longest. Anyway, It was so sad. Joining us, very broken up about it too, Mr. Adam Lane, a.k.a. Kronos. What's up?
Yeah, super broken up. That's definitely my favorite part of the patch for sure. 100%. It's maybe my least favorite. I'm not even sure. There's a lot in this patch that I really like. So.
Oh my God, so much good stuff.
Yeah, so let's just start. We don't have B-roll or anything for this show because this is going to be our 6.1 review, and I guess by proxy 6.1 as well, because we definitely want to talk about the ultimate. And then we got 6.15 coming and 6.18 coming, so we'll have bits and pieces of additional reviews as we get things like the Hildebrand quest, the tribe quests, the data center travel. All those additional things are going to be part of 6.1. We'll kind of ad hoc review those items as they come. But for 6.1, I think, gents, we got to start with the MSQ, right? That was this was it, right? Endwalker is done. The main story for A Realm Reborn sequence is complete. Where do we go from here? We've speculated on this show, and everybody else has speculated on the internet. Well, there's still areas of Eorzea that the map isn't revealed. We could do this. We could do that. We could go here. We could go here. We start to get a little bit of an idea of where we're going. And again, we are going to talk about spoilers here for as many as there are. What did you think of the MSQ itself, Kronos, before we get into like the meat and potatoes of a couple different story beat spoiler-ish moments?
I thought it was pretty good. There's a few spoiler moments I enjoyed. There's some that caught me off guard, like where they're going with it, or where they seem to be going. I don't know how fast we're gonna get there, but we'll see. I think overall I liked it. They got me at the beginning where I thought they were gonna bring back a character for a second. I was about to be like, "Oh no, please, please not!" But then it was something else, so it was fine.
No, go ahead. You can say it. Go ahead.
I thought when they showed the hand at first, I was like, "They're not bringing Xenos back to life, man.
Oh,
Please
God.
don't do it again."
Yeah.
But then it's just as the void sent, so
Yeah.
it's fine.
His
Um,
Reaper attachment.
Yeah, I was really worried it was him for a second because when you see it's like he's like engulfed in the shadow and it looks just like him.
Yep.
Mhm.
And then when it like comes out, you can kind of see it has like the thing with like the hand over its eye. So yeah, overall I think I really enjoyed it. I was surprised that we're going to the void, and it seems to be kind of fast. But we'll see. I mean, maybe I don't see. I'm under the context that they're gonna cover a lot of this before we even get to the expansion. So I'm interested to see what y'all think too about that.
Yeah, so Tark, I could see, some people maybe a little disappointed by 6.1 and seeing that, hey, we just finished up on the first where it was like absolute light, and now we're going to the 13th, or headed in the direction, seemingly, of the 13th, where it's basically absolute dark, and with all the void sent, and maybe that's a little disappointing for people that were looking for new adventures, not necessarily let's go visit another one of the Shattered Star.
Yeah, and it could be that that's just what we're taking care of right now, because they did talk a bit about Mericidia. So maybe that's still on the table for the expansion itself. But oh my god, all the spoilerific yummy stuff. The Black Knight. Who could that be? I don't know.
Yeah,
these elemental.
Hey, do we got any of that Final Fantasy IV bad guy music laying around? All right, let's throw some of that in here. We got any of those? We got any of those for Fiend, elemental thing? Yeah, let's throw them in this cutscene. We haven't got any big armor. Yeah, let's throw some of that in this cutscene. What should we call him? Black Knight. Black Knight.
We don't want to truly reveal his name because no one want to. Whatever.
Yeah,
it's like we all know it's Golbez.
I mean, it's a whole other character too. It's not like it's like Golbez from 4. They could have just gave him the name. It's so weird that they were just like, let's make it not it. Like I was telling, I think it was before we went live, Mike. I was like, it's like a wrestling show where they play the wrestlers' music, and the people are like, I wonder who it is, and it's like, come on, man, like it's obvious. Yeah, unless you haven't played Final Fantasy IV.
When you hear the slam of those gothic bells, the Undertaker's coming out. He's coming out. Like it's going to be the Undertaker.
Hold the personality. It's CM Punk. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as the quests themselves, yes, I liked the Golbez story beat with the Void Scent. Kind of makes sense. So you got to... you kind of maybe argue that maybe X-Death fits a little better with the whole Void storyline, but there are just so many ties to Final Fantasy IV in Endwalker that it just kind of makes sense that they roll with Golbez. And there's still Void, elements about Golbez too. So it does work. I do like that. I will say this. The quests, we didn't expect them to be long, right? We expected, maybe do an hour, and that counts running the dungeon as well. And that's what they clock in at about. I will say I was disappointed kind of with the first half of the quests, though, because they really, to me, just seemed like attendance check-in to get enough people so that you could trust the dungeon. Like, that's really all it felt like was go talk to enough former Scions so that trust becomes enabled for that first dungeon. Otherwise, you don't have anybody around you. So it just kind of felt like a little bit of busy work. And, I know that they're trying, I know in the game they're trying to imply that, X time has passed, Tark, months have passed since the events of the final days. But as a player, that's a really hard mental leap to go through when you're still running around the same areas, this, old Charlian and stuff like that. And Kryl is still where we left her. Like, so it's like she didn't move, all these different people. But it picked up. I liked the back half of the 6.1 sequence rather than the basic attendance check of the first half, just to make sure you had enough people for the trust. Golbez, obviously looking forward to.
And I like the core of the story where it's Y'shtola, and she really has this need to want to find a way to get back to the first, and having this opportunity,
right, to keep her
with this
promise.
void get to keep her promise. And we don't want to just cut them off completely, because they spent years. We spent, maybe some months there, but they spent years cultivating relationships. How do we get back in touch with Reen and Gaia? The core of the story, and the reason why we're exploring this void gate, so that we could use this information to get back to the first, I felt was put things together in a good way.
I would argue there's a little bit of plot convenience, Kronos, going on, though, in that Vitra's sister also happens to be there, while we also need this void gate for various, for Y'shtola's various experiments. Is just so happens I have a portal that I've been keeping in a jar under this whole thing.
In a jar.
I mean, it's a big jar. Granted, it's a big jar. So maybe a little bit of, let's say, MacGuffin type plot convenience to kick things off here. But hey, I'm all on board. I'm on board.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, we know his sister's boned, right? I mean, his sister is definitely Golbez's shadow dragon, like 100%. So yeah, because we know he has one. Like, I mean, that's just a thing he has in other games. So
yep.
I mean, it just lines up too perfectly.
Let's since we're talking about 6.1 and the MSQ, let's talk about the dungeon. I mean, that's like the really only piece of meaningful, let's say, content besides just, there were no duties or anything like that. It was reading a lot of stuff and doing a dungeon. Was basically the 6.1 MSQ. So the dungeon being a big part and the only real interactive part of 6.1. What were your initial thoughts, Tark? Did you run through it with Trust first, or did you just queue up and get some randos? Were you hitting it with friends? How'd it go?
I did it with Trust. I'm liking using Trust as the first means of going through things. Get a little bit more story, a little bit more from my friends there, and I love using Astinian. If he's available, why not use him? I will say, God, I wish they did a little bit more DPS, because I don't want to use Trust with them any more than I have to, though. Because what should be a 15-minute dungeon takes like 30 to 40 minutes with them, because it's just move. Come on, especially with me being a healer, like I don't do enough damage.
Oh, so you just get to sit there and watch. Yeah, I've never thought about that, because whenever I do Trust, I'm usually black mage or red mage, so I don't really notice. I mean, I notice that things are a little slower, but it doesn't double my time in the dungeon. It certainly doesn't do that. Kronos, what'd you think of Azadal's legacy?
It's a 14 dungeon.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
dungeon. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It does look cool the first time, and then because of how now I have a different way to make my tonestones every week, I've only done it like twice.
Same here, twice. I've done it twice, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I got the orchestrated roll, and I was like, "Yep, we're done with this place." So, I mean, it's fine. It's kind of just more to me of the same. I don't really do the Trust. I always go in with like randos. I just like that experience more. That's just my cup of tea.
See, I'm always the one that I'm like Tark. I always run it on the Trust first, to get. Maybe you don't catch every mechanic as far as recognizing it right away, and I don't want anybody to get nuked because I did something wrong generally, though, in 4-person dungeons, there aren't too many global wipe mechanics, but every once in a while they kind of throw one in there, and I don't want to be that guy. So I
twisty top mechanic?
Exactly. Yeah. That mechanic, okay, I'm going to say that the first time it did it, I couldn't figure out how to control it. I was like, what is going on? I didn't see the hand icon pop up.
The little arrow,
Yeah, the little like mitted Final Fantasy glove hand. I was like, what are they steer? How the fuck am I steering? And I looked down, I'm like, did they hotbar swap me into something? No. They didn't swap me into anything. Yeah, just steer. And then I got it, and it takes maybe 1 or 2 times through it before you're like, okay, here's the delay on this thing. If you're going in a certain direction and you want to change direction, you better start 15 seconds ahead of time. It was an interesting mechanic, I thought, spinning everybody around like a top. Maybe a little silly, but it was interesting. It was interesting. You're right though, Kronos. It's another situation we've said often. There were more than 3 pulls between some of the bosses.
Yeah, the pulls with the little gate things. That's
yeah,
kind of cool.
yeah. That was neat.
I like that.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, it's the same thing.
It is.
This is why I hope Criterion Dungeons bring something fresh to this.
Yeah, 6.2. But
dungeons.
I wouldn't hold out hope.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath.
I honestly think that Criterion Dungeons are just going to be straight dungeons in the way we know them, with some number pumping depending on 1, 2, 3, or 4 players. I don't think there's going to be anything ridiculous or earth-shatteringly new out of these. So, but we did get the new Alliance raid. The first 4 bosses of I can never Aglia.
Aglia.
Aglia. Yeah, sure.
I think that's right.
We'll go with that. What'd you guys think? Kronos, we'll start with you first.
Yeah, aesthetically, it's awesome. I think it's probably one of the best. It might be the best 24-man aesthetically they've ever created. And the story is really interesting, at least to me, because it actually ties into like main stuff, not just it doesn't really feel like a side story. I guess it's more like Crystal Tower-ish, but even Crystal Tower back in the day was a side story. It just became more relevant. Whereas this feels like it's already from the get like tied in. Like I think that's why they put it kind of like branched from the MSQ, because they want people to be like, hey, this is kind of important. So yeah, I think it's amazing. I think the bosses look amazing. I think the mechanics are really cool the first time. I do think it's kind of easy though, personally. I think once you get like the mechanic down, it's like almost impossible to fail it to me. Like there's not enough like randomness along with the dodging, where it just feels samey every time. I don't know how many times y'all have done it, if y'all feel the same way, but I think the first time you do it, it's awesome.
So I kind of agree with you that at least these first 4 bosses to me did skew a little bit to the easier side of things. I do think there's room for messing up in the 4th boss.
Oh yeah,
in Naldthal,
especially if you have a troll.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But the first time I ran it, we cleared it, no wipe. So
yeah, we did too.
That's kind of like, that's my bar, is how many times do we wipe on day 1, day 2, when the overwhelming majority of players in an Alliance raid haven't done it before, and there's no videos up for it yet. Like how do you do it there? And yeah, there wasn't. I mean, Naldthal has the one mechanic that is an insta wipe if you do it wrong. But I do tend to agree with you. There were a couple neat mechanics, though. I think Tark that people still were getting hurt by, even like this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The one that comes to my mind is Ragar, and the punches. If you don't angle yourself right, you just knocked right off the hand. I like that callback though to Stormblood and the statue though. But yeah, I'm with you. It was great that first time around. I died like 6 or 7 times. It was quite enjoyable to get through, in the first couple hours when the patch launched. But since then, my goal of going through a run without any deaths or vuln stacks, it's been pretty easy. So I still really enjoy it. And in the balance, how can you not love that song?
Oh, I know, right?
You want to dance as soon as you start hearing it. That needs to be on a mount, like ASAP.
Just get the orchestra in your house.
Well, that too. Yes, I need that.
Yeah,
too,
I still don't have the minion, so I'm gonna keep running it. Gotta keep running it. Yeah,
but in the balance, I could just listen to that song on its own without being in the game.
I think just to go back for a second for like the ease of it, it feels like the mechanics don't like. I think what Final Fantasy typically does a good job of is they iterate on mechanics, right? Like they'll be like, okay, for example, like here's Birgot's hammer, right, and it's gonna get pushed. Okay, the problem is when you get to the second part where the hammer comes back, I think normally in a Final Fantasy fight, there'd be like, okay, now there's 2 hammers, right? It's like I gotta dodge, but it's just 1 again.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt. Where it's like, okay, yeah, Rauger has like the bait meteor where like he punches it, and you're like supposed to go toward it instead of away, which you would normally do. But he just does that every time. So it's like, is it really a bait if he does it every time? That's kind of
Well,
what
yeah,
kind of
the first time around, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's always the setup and then the layer on top of it afterwards.
yeah,
It's just that sometimes that setup, the boss is already at 50%. You're like, well, okay, there's not much left to go through here at this point. So,
yeah.
Yeah, and Thal has the kind of random element on which ability is actually going to fire out of the two different sets. There's multiple sets, but here's ability 1 and 2. Which one's actually going to fire while they're both being cast? I did kind of like that.
I think it's cool.
It is very annoying when a large portion of your group does not realize that that's what's going on, or they get baited by the sky hasn't changed yet, for example, and they're looking at what it currently is and they aren't paying attention when it actually does change. Or his like purple laser beams, right?
yeah, I cleave.
Yeah, that go front or back, and sometimes they'll bait and swap to the other one. So those early preppers that aren't paying attention sometimes get murked for being an early prepper. But I will say that I really did enjoy this one. This was definitely better than the Nier stuff for me. It was definitely better than Omega for me. Crystal Tower is still one of my favorites, and I still do like Evilise Lighthouse and all that stuff too. So I'm gonna run it a few more times because I got to get the minion anyway, and I'll revisit where it ranks. But it's definitely better than Omega, definitely better than Nier for me, and I think it's only going to get better. What I thought was really interesting too was even after you clear it, there's still multiple quests after it.
It's a good amount.
Yeah, and there is a lot of revisiting older locations and looking at the lore of the gods, and this is exactly what the three of us wanted, right? Was let's talk about these gods, because how did they get here? Why are they here? Were they just a version of primals? And those questions, some of those start to get answered already in these quests in just the first batch. So I think it's really well put together. I'm curious why all of a sudden, right? That's the one thing that gods keep saying is we can't tell you why we're getting involved right now. You have to figure that out on your own.
I think
but we
got to stretch this out over 3 patches.
Right.
Yeah,
but we are getting involved for a reason. And after all of the, astral and umbral eras, the gods just kind of flittered around on the sides of things. Why are they now front and center? What is going on that puts them here?
I think my theory I'm still holding to my theory, which was, I think I said a couple months ago. I think it's related to, like, they're like ancients somehow from like, they're like Heidel's convocation. That's still my theory. I don't know if like she sundered them and they exist on everything, but I think that's why they're like these godlike beings, is because they're technically ancients. I mean, we'll see. They're definitely not primals.
No,
we know that.
They're not primals. Yeah.
So, and they're not just normal dudes. So there's something there. It's interesting. I mean, I'm interested to see how they play out, but that's kind of my theory currently still, is that they're somehow related to Heidelin, and I think Heidelin dying is why they're coming to the front now.
This was my favorite part of the patch. Was the Alliance raid. I just love the aesthetic of it. Yes, it is kind of like just a created zone, right? It's, but I like the aesthetic of it. I love the boss fights in it. I thought they were a great way to cue this sequence up. Yeah, I would agree that maybe they're at least these first 4 are a little bit on the easier side when it comes to Alliance raids, but I think that kind of goes hand in hand with this kind of being latched onto the MSQ, and them wanting probably more players than typically experience the full Alliance raid to try and experience this one, maybe, for lore and narrative reasons. But this was my favorite part of the patch, hands down for me. I just loved it from top to bottom. I can't wait for the next one. I know the two of you have different, if I had to guess, different favorite parts of the patch. But
It's cool. Are we counting 6.1.1? The 6.1.1?
Oh,
count?
yeah.
Oh, well, then
So,
then it's not even close.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it was close until you said
It's just
6.1. Then it's not close.
6.1.
Yeah,
If it was
no.
just 6.1, okay.
Okay, so if we don't include the ultimate, is the Alliance Raid your favorite part of 6.1?
It's not, but it's close.
Yeah,
it's close.
It's almost there.
All right, so you guys are both going to put our next topic as your favorite then, huh?
Quick side note, though, about Alliance Raid. This gear set is better than anything we ever got in the Nier raids.
Oh, that's a hot
Glam-wise. The glam-wise.
That's a hot take.
I'm sorry.
From a
Those
male
Nier
character
sets.
perspective, I could see that. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that have those 2B boots glamored, man. Like, that is a high-end glamour
That's
item.
one piece. This whole set is just awesome. Across all the roles. It's great. I love them.
Next up, Crystalline Conflict, the new 5v5 PvP mode in Final Fantasy XIV, taking over for the feast. Notice that your minion achievements now read kill or get assists in the feast or Crystalline Conflict. So those of you that were worried, we told you, don't be worried, but that is the change they made. The numbers are still the same. It's just now counts both Feast and Crystalline Conflict. So you maintained any progress you already had from the Feast, and Crystalline Conflict now just adds to it.
And you put on your Garo title, and you're double dipping for days.
Unless you've already done it like me.
Yeah, okay.
Then you don't get double dip at all.
I'm close to my mount, so.
I think I'm going to go first, gents. I let you guys go first on the other one, and I'm going to be really short. It still doesn't do it for me.
Oh.
That's not to say that Crystalline Conflict is bad. I think by far it is the best PvP they have put in the game, and I don't think it's even close in my book. I will give it that. It is short. It is snappy. It is responsive. It still has balance issues, but we expect it to. But it just doesn't do it for me. It really doesn't. And we're going to talk about this a little later when we get to Love It or Leave It, I'm sure. I'm only going to do this when I have to. Like when there's minions I got to go get. And like I did enough to get my 1,000 crystal trophies and go grab that minion from the, like, yeah, fine. I'm going to do it. And at least this is not as unbearable as some of the other PvP for me to have to farm occasionally when I need to go get X thousand crystal trophies to go get some minion that comes out 2 patches down the road, or this is the series that has a minion in it, so I got to play and rank up a little. You know, it's not unbearable to me. It's not unbearable. I do not seem to be getting good groups at all. I still have not won a match.
Oh,
I'm not even lying. I still, whether ranked or casual, I've been bouncing back and forth. It's just not even close. Like, it's not even close. But I will concede that maybe I'm just generally not good at it too, even though I seem to be leading in kills and damage, and nobody's playing the objectives in my groups, but whatever. I want to be positive about it because it is a huge step forward, I think, for Final Fantasy XIV PvP. And I cannot begrudge them that. It is a massive step forward. It's not enough to snag me as this is a fun mode. I'm still one of those, if I want a PvP, there are just other games that I'm going to go do it in. This is not like the, I'm going to log in and do some conflict because I got about an hour to kill, so let me go play 15 matches. It's just still not there for me, and that's probably, I admit, just a flavor thing. So I want to make sure I give credit. I recognize it is much better. It is enjoyable. I'm not going to be banging my head against the wall when I do have to grind this stuff at certain times for things, but it just doesn't do it for me. Tark, go ahead.
All right. So first off, queues. What's a queue? I think the longest queue I had was 15 seconds.
I want to hold off on that one because I think casual is going to, if they don't put it as far into like a roulette rotation, I think casual is going to be empty in a while.
I think there's another issue with that too, but I'll talk about it when we get to it.
Yeah. I kind of figured you would talk about it too.
All I've ever played is ranked. So
right now, yes, you're right. The queues are snappy, and they should be. It's a 5v5 with 5-minute matches. They better be snappy
and no role restrictions, so you could get all 5 DPS. So you just need 10 players. I like how, and I've only experienced it on Sage, but from the gist of what I've been reading and seeing, the simmering down of the jobs into a core set of abilities is really fascinating to me. And with Sage, there's a lot of little nuances where I have my Cardia, I have the things that make me a Sage, like Cardia. Putting a dot on someone puts a shield on the Cardia person. If that expires, I get an extra AoE, which does these little things. It's just about the nuances and really learning what your job can do. And then knowing that, we dive in, pull back, when to use your guard and stuff. I will say that the snappiness that you suggested, maybe not quite there. I still have problems with my cure function and my guard. Like sometimes it won't.
Oh, no. You misunderstand. I'm referring to snappiness as in you're out, you're done.
Okay. They need to tweak.
Not responsiveness, which is what you're talking about.
Thank you. Responsiveness. The responsiveness of some of these abilities need to be adjusted, and then maybe toned down, because I'm constantly, in the frantic moments, I'm sometimes double clicking these things and turning them off accidentally. So they need to fix that too. Maybe just a half-second delay, so you're not double tapping things. I enjoy that your mana is only for healing, so you don't have to really I used to have to really manage my MP pre 6.1. Now it's just for healing. I don't have to worry about it being for my main abilities. I love it. It's so good. I'm not where Kronos is. I'm not in Crystal, but I'm working my way up, and it's something where I dive in, and next thing I know, it's been 2 hours and I've just been PvPing. I've capped my tomestones for the week. I'm just having a blast. It's such a fun game mode. I love it.
And I do intend to play more of this, by the way, to better form an impression, get better at the mode myself, so that I can make some other thoughts on it. So please don't get me. I'm not bashing it. It's just not for me yet.
Yeah, I don't think you're coming off that way, to be honest.
Okay.
I think,
all right, good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's totally a fair point to say that you get your PvP fix from another game, because I think the problems with the PvP still in this game is that it still has the same problems that the Final Fantasy game has in general, and the responsiveness that Tark is talking comes from the way that the game functions as a whole.
Yeah, that's the architecture.
Because of server ticks, you have issues like that, and they're probably not going to fix that, sadly. So it's going to be really frustrating when you purify that debuff, and you're supposed to have the buff that lets you not get stunned, but then in that 3-second window, you get stunned again, and now you're dead.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It really sucks. And I hope they do try to address it somehow. I just don't have faith that they're going to somehow redo the entire architecture of the game and fix that problem. It's also bringing to light like issues that PvP has had forever, but no one cared because no one really was playing it. You have like all these cheaters running around and stuff. And so it'll be interesting to see how Square tackles that. There might be some casualties from that aren't necessarily the PvP crowd, so we'll see how that goes. I know a lot of people are like thinking they might hit some of the add-ons that people just use for other things because they want to crack down on cheaters. And they do need to crack down on it, because if they want it to be successful, you can't have people speed hacking and do like firing LBs when people are at certain percentages. That's just kind of unfair. But I agree with Tark to most of it, though. Like I think basically it turned your kit into like a MOBA style kit now. You're basically playing a MOBA almost.
Yeah, and it was something we were worried about, actually. Like, since they were taking roles away, and since they were kind of homogenizing a bunch of different ability sets, we speculated on this show, are you still going to feel like a black mage? Are you still going to feel like a sage? Are you still going to feel like a white mage? And I got to say, You do. You definitely do.
Yeah.
They nailed that.
Yep. Yeah, and your LBs are almost like ultimates of that game. I find myself using like the lingo interchangeably when I'm playing with friends and stuff. Just because I played MOBAs for a while, and like when I play this, I feel like that's what I'm playing. It's like, oh, I'm a white mage, but I got my ulti ready. Like I'm ready to go in. And like I'll touch on balance for a second too, because there's some balance problems. Like when you get to the higher ranks, man, and you see your team has a warrior and a white mage, and the other team has neither, you feel real good. But when it's flipped, you feel real bad.
I'm glad white mage got a nerf though.
It's not enough. I think they did a lot of things in the right direction in the 1.1 patch for PvP, but I think because the rank season's already underway, they didn't want to change too much. But there's still things they need to do to buff and nerf in a little bit of ways. But I mean that's like a whole another topic. But I think overall it's fun. I do worry, like you, Mike, that the queues are going to start to slow down, especially when people have gotten all their stuff, and like there's just not much of a reason. And I think casuals will get hit the most. And I think it's absurd that you cannot do a queue in casuals. I think it's like insane to me. Who cares if I want a buddy and the other team doesn't have a duo queue? Like, what? It's a casual match. Does anybody really like?
Right.
I don't understand why that's a problem. I understand in ranked, right? Ranked makes sense. Solo queue only. I get it. But in a casual match, like, why can't I play with like one friend? Like, I have people in my FC that really don't even want to play the mode because we can't. So we end up playing frontline, which, by the way, is also a lot more fun, I think, with the new kits.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next, how the new kits impact frontlines, because I think I agree with you. It's another positive. Still doesn't make frontlines fun for me, but absolutely has made it better. I wish I would have waited to do my frontlines grinding for my damn wolf marked minions now.
I feel like it's definitely broken. Like there's a lot more broken things on frontline than there are in the Crystal Conflict, which is I think that's always going to happen because I think they're going to concentrate their balance stuff on CC. But there's actually different broken stuff in frontlines, which is kind of funny. But I think that's fine because it's like 3 teams, like random spawn point. It's more just for people to like get in there with you're allowed to play with 3 friends. And I feel like now with the new kits and stuff, you can actually carry a lot more. Like you feel like you're doing way more in frontlines now than before, where like if you were on white mage, you were just like, well, I guess I'll heal the party and save my LB for healing, and that's about all you were doing. But now it's like you feel like you get in there, you get to like actually play your job, and you're really like pivotal to what's happening. I just play summoner and I throw Bahamut down on like 30 people. Feels great. So I think it's awesome.
Saging it in frontline, and you got the other 2 teams like going after each other, and you throw in a Toxicon just in the middle of that, and then you just Numa laser beam like all their faces, and you just like, oh look, I'm on heat number 2 already. Sweet.
Yeah.
Yoshi P does want you to stop being toxic, boys. Stop being toxic.
How am I being toxic?
He spent quite the post saying, "Hey guys, stop spamming good game before the game is decided." I feel like he should probably play Rocket League and see how many times you get what a saved.
It's every other PvP game has these people. It's nothing new. I mean, to me,
I see. Here's the thing, though. Like, if you go play, like I said, Rocket League as a joke, but if you play Rocket League and somebody just keeps spamming you over and over, what a save, what a save, what a save, that is not like you. If you want to report it, you can, but nothing's ever going to happen with that report because they're just using a quick save or a quick chat that says what a save, what a save, what a save. To them, that's like him, Yoshi P, specifically calling out that type of behavior as toxic, and if people are doing this, please report them. I don't know.
That's a little
I don't know.
It does kind of kill morale a little bit. I will say that. Like when you have one of those people on your team, because like the thing about Crystal Conflict, a lot of games are winnable, even like when they're like right at your point. I've won games from like 98% and pushed it back. You can win, but when you have that dude that's just spamming good match, like it's a 4v5 now, so you're probably done.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but I mean, like you're gonna have games like that. Just like I see a lot of people complain. It's like my teams are bad, kind of that kind of stuff, and I understand that. The way I try to look at stuff, and this is me just coming from other PvP games, is like I always try to feel like what could I have done better. I try to have that mentality. instead of trying to think about like how my teammates could have done. And obviously it feels great when you have good teammates. It does, and it does matter. But like that's just kind of how I like to see it, and that kind of like makes me just ignore the people that do stuff like that. I think it's kind of funny that they're gonna start banning people for lighting fireworks on people's dead bodies and stuff, though. Like, I mean, I don't know.
I think it's more annoying when people spam the limit break percentage, because that sound effect that they attach to it is just. It's like, oh, just stop that, please.
Tark, you seem like you're upset that Yoshi P wants to create maybe a further line than you want. I feel like Tark wants to be semi-toxic and have that be okay.
I just think there's a fine line, and you don't want to go so far where I don't know. It's sometimes his "don't be toxic" mentality goes a little too far, in my opinion. I understand that he wants it to be.
I feel like Tark is worried about getting his ass reported. Here is what's going on.
I'm never gonna, because
he wants to spam good game when he's killing the other team.
It really doesn't bother me. It's whatever to me, unless you get that damn sound effect in your ear over and over again. I'm just having a blast with it. I don't, you're in that spot where, you haven't won a match, but when you win like 5-6 matches in a row, you're going to feel real good when you get that win streak and you jump from bronze into high silver.
I should at least provide more detail here. When I said I haven't won a match yet, please understand that with my show, Crystalline Conflict was like the last piece of 6.1 I got to, and I've tried it maybe 6 to 8 matches total. Like I haven't been beating my head against it since 6.1 came out and never won a match. We are not
Black Mage.
We are not there yet. Yes, yeah, and it's not fun actually.
It's different. Yeah,
I'm not enjoying Black Mage in there, so I am going to try other classes and things like that. But I do feel like I should put that like additional information. He hasn't won a match. Came out 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I've played like 6 to 10 matches total somewhere in there. It's fine. I'll get a win. It's all right.
I think I played
basically less than an hour.
Yeah. I just wanted to be able to speak intelligently about the system itself.
Yeah, I think I played like 150 or 160 matches or something.
I do like the streak bonuses. I do like that.
I do and I don't.
You do and you don't?
I think at the lower ranks they're fine, actually. Okay. I also think you should be able to D-rank, because I know people get that high when they hit a rank, right? I understand it. Like, you're like, man, I've been in bronze and now I'm silver. Man, I was in silver and stuck and now I'm gold. Sometimes, though, I feel like you hit a rank where maybe you shouldn't quite be there yet. And I think that's fine. People just need to be okay with where they are sometimes, I think. And you just kind of work toward yourself and be better. Like, I think the fact, and it promotes win trading, too, is my other thing.
Yeah.
Because you have people right now, and this is another cheating thing, where they'll have 2 accounts. And they'll get one account to Crystal, and then they'll get the other account to Crystal. And now that one account is in Crystal, who cares if they lose? They'll queue up at the same time with 2 accounts, and they'll just beat their other account. So now it's like a 4v5. That's what some people have been doing that. So it's like they got to figure out like a nice kind of medium, because I actually think you probably maybe like you have to lose a few in a row to get demoted. Like maybe you get 0 stars at platinum, and if you lose 3 in a row, you go back to gold. And you have to just win like 2 more to come back to platinum. Like, I don't really see the problem in that. I think that's fine, and I think that's kind of healthy. I think you need some kind of degradation in the thing other than just the stars within the ranks. Personally.
Yeah, and they didn't learn this for the feast, right? Yeah, there was no decay over time with the feast, and we did talk. Yeah, you're about there. There probably needs to be some type of decay in the ranked play at some point.
Yeah.
All right. We've going on here, so let's get in some Ultimate chat. And if you want to talk about the Unreal a little bit too, feel free in this segment.
Unreal is disappointing.
Yeah, I was disappointed with the Unreal.
It's very easy.
It's Ultima. It's Ultima. It was pretty easy to start with.
It's like unwipeable. Like I've never had such an easy time just getting a group, and I get my 2 clears and I'm out.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so then moving on to the Ultimate, which lasted 6 days before World First was claimed. So about a day. Or Kronos, you had estimated probably about a week for it to be clear, and it got cleared in 6 days. Both of you gentlemen have already started, so we'll start with you, Kronos.
So I've only been in there for an hour, and we got to Thornton, but I have been watching a lot. This has been my sports for like the last 6 days.
Nice.
Yeah, I multi-Twitch. I like while I'm working on my laptop, I have like 3 streams on to see where people are progressing. I love doing that. I think the Ultimates make it like an awesome environment. I think this is one of the best design fights I've ever seen. It's like every twist and turn is like really awesome. I think Square Enix is a bunch of dirty liars. They've lied about everything they said about this Ultimate though. Like there weren't going to be troll mechanics. Okay, there's 2. It's not going to be longer than UCOB. It's 21 minutes. Like so like which I'm fine with, by the way. I just find it hilarious that they don't want to say it. But it does seem like he was true on one thing. I think this is the hardest piece of content they've ever made in this game, which I think is awesome. And I'm really excited to get further in myself. And congrats to the team that's already cleared. They're still the only team that's cleared. Only one team so far. But yeah, I think it's been amazing. And I think just like the whole twist on the Heavensward main story, it's really hooking a lot of people. And the viewership on Twitch has been insane. Just people watching, having a good time, and watching people watch Harshafont die over and over again. So I think it's great.
Over and over and over again. So one piece on that difficulty topic was Yoshi P in an interview about Ultimates and other 6.1 stuff did say, like, hey, we don't really have plans. He was asked, are you going to make Ultimates more accessible? Now, what they meant was approachable, not accessible. That those terms have different meanings.
Yes.
And Yoshi P said no. He's like, no, that's not the point of that content. It's not meant to be made more approachable for more people to take part in it. Either you want to do something that difficult or you don't. And we're
that's
okay
why we have
with
normal
that.
rates.
And we're okay with it. Tark, what'd you think? What are you thinking so far?
I'm having some issues with my new team that go outside, so I'm not going to discuss that. But I'm loving the difficulty so far. I have not gotten too deep into it. I haven't even finished phase 1, and we spent 6 to 7 hours in there. But part of that is the outside stuff that's really hampered our progress. But I'm enjoying what I'm getting at. That this is the first time I've done an ultimate right out of the gate, so I'm really excited to dive back in there tonight, right after the show, and hopefully we get to phase 2 and see Thornton.
This is both of your favorite parts of 6.1, 6.11 if we latch them together?
If we latch them together, yes.
Or does PvP edge it out?
No, easily. It's the Ultimate. The Ultimate is my favorite piece of content in the game. I just love difficult stuff. So
you've only been waiting for what? A year, 2 years, 3 years, something like that?
2.5.
It's been a while, yeah.
All in all, I got to give 6.1. I got to give it like an 8, and maybe even a 9. As much as maybe Crystalline Conflict is not content specifically for me, just as far as my tastes go, I do have to recognize it is a damn good piece of content if you are looking for PvP, and it's just going to get better as they balance the classes out a little more. They balance some abilities a little more, and they've already started. So we've already seen some tweaks here and there with different abilities in different classes. So I anticipate it, and it is stomachable for me as somebody who just, hated Frontlines and Wolf's Den, and I can see myself going, all right, well, I'm going to spend the next 2 days in CC because I need X to get that minion or whatever, and not feel totally broken up about having to do it. So I got to recognize that is a huge step forward. I'm going to give him like an 8.5. 8.5. I'll put it right in the middle. 8.5. Kronos.
For me, it's a 10.
The ultimate was enough.
Yeah, can I do an 11? Is that possible? I liked every part of this. Like I said, the only downside is like the dungeon is more of the same, but like
the dungeon is my negative point.
Yeah, like I have a lot of reasons to just log in and do stuff right now, which is
Yeah.
always great for me. So, and I like the direction the MSQ is going and the Alliance rate's going. So,
Yeah, newest girl looks like got here a little late. We all agreed that the 24-man definitely slapped. And the music slapped especially hard. Tark, where are you?
I give it a 9.5, and that only 0.5 is the dungeon. I've done the dungeon twice. I've only queued up for expert once, and that's to get a Wondrous Tales done. So I do it for the MSQ, and then I don't need to do it ever again because PvP is so awesome.
Other Square Enix news this week. Square Enix just sold Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and a bunch of other stuff to Embracer Group, who bought Eidos, Crystal Dynamics, and Square Enix Montreal. So basically, the Western development people in Square Enix have now been sold off to Embracer Group. If they sound familiar, that is because they already own Gearbox, THQ Nordic, Saber Interactive, Koch Media, whichever you prefer, Deep Silver, Coffee Stain Studios, and then Dark Horse Publishing, if we want to get outside of video games, and a few other things. Sold for $300 million, and it gives Embracer ownership of more than 50 back catalog games from Square Enix's library and impacts about 1,100 employees across all three studios. So that means Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and a bunch of other IPs no longer owned by Square Enix. And in fact, Embracer said they saw opportunities in all of these IPs, as well as Legacy of Kain, Thief, and all kinds of other original franchises. Interestingly, what has not been talked about a great deal is the impact this has on the Marvel stuff, with Marvel's Avengers or Guardians of the Galaxy. In a conference call, Embracer did talk about future Marvel stuff will have to be renegotiated, which you would expect during a buyout, but they haven't really been specific on what happens with those, something like Marvel's Avengers, where it is a live service title going forward, which I kind of think spells doom and gloom for Avengers. I read that as Avengers is dead. One of the things that Square Enix said about the deal, Tark, was that they are going to use this money for blockchain, NFT, cloud technology direction, which I think there's some interesting stuff Square could do with cloud. I mean, they do a lot of mobile stuff anyway, so they could potentially do some interesting stuff there, but
not if Kingdom Hearts Cloud has anything to say about it.
$300 million. Arguably, a lot of people reacting that, wow, that was a steal for Embracer Group. And I got to say, maybe I also have to look at it and go, well, if somebody was going to pay more, Square would have sold to the company that was paying more. Mm-hmm. And with Sony and Microsoft and different companies on buying sprees, there were other companies involved in these discussions. We don't know who at the moment. I'm sure we will learn that over the coming weeks, who else was in here. But Embracer said $300 million straight cash, homie, up front, where maybe some of these other companies were like, we'll give you $400 million, but $200 million's in cash, and here's the how we want to break up the rest. We don't know. So maybe $300 million is a deal. I'm sure if there was more on the table, Square would have taken more. I don't know how to read this. There's a lot of, I think it reads for me that Marvel's Avengers is dead. It's just that, don't expect, if you are a fan, I'm sorry, don't expect anything else. If it had to be my guess. They did announce
a new piece of content with Lady Thor.
Right, but that was already, in the works.
I think they're finished their contractual obligations, especially with Spider-Man coming out. And now that someone else owns it, I don't think they want to put any money into that money pit.
Nope. I think this is a great move for the companies being sold, because I love Square Enix, but I think Square Enix has beat the shit out of them for quite a long time. And even when they have multiple million unit movers, look at Tomb Raider, they call them disappointments because of these exorbitantly high expectations. I mean, there's a new Tomb Raider in development now. right? Built on Unreal 5, and that's still going to be in the works there. So I think it's good for those. I also think, maybe this is a weird take, I also think it kind of flags Square Enix for a Sony purchase.
You think so? I've heard people saying that.
Talking about that with Kronos before the show.
I think so. I think this totally says, Sony, look, we're a Japanese-only company now.
I could see that.
Our Western developers are gone. All the stuff that you probably didn't want is gone. You want Final Fantasy, you want Dragon Quest, you want our key marquee titles, and that's all you want. We're not going to sell them piecemeal, but now we just sold off our Western half of the company. Buy us.
So
maybe it's Sony, maybe it's somebody else, but I do think it kind of puts up the flag of, hey, we might be a little more attractive now if all you wanted was our core IPs.
So then that would imply, because I feel like they've had to have gotten offers, which would imply that maybe they thought the offers were like not quite worth what they wanted to give up the company for or something. But personally, the way I took this announcement when I saw it this morning, it felt to me like Square Enix was like consolidating to concentrate more on the things that they know for them works. And then I think giving these other IPs away is actually, like you said, good for those IPs, because I think Square was trying to dip too far into every direction and have these ridiculous expectations for things.
I cheered out loud that they even mentioned Legacy of Kain.
Yeah,
yeah, I squealed.
I think this is even good for Tomb Raider, which personally has been successful the last few titles they put out. I mean, even if Square doesn't want to say it is, but like, I think to me, I took this as like, we're going to concentrate on what we know works for us, which is Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, that kind of stuff. But it could be because, I mean, yeah, it is a little weird that they just basically now they're all in Japan now. But they still have their Western office, right? Like, that's not going to go away as part of this.
Yeah. But it's all Square now. It's
right.
None of the Western development houses.
Yeah.
It's all Square. Yeah. So. And maybe it's to Sony, maybe it's not. Maybe there's nobody, and I'm just reading into this, but I do think it does put up a little bit of an advertisement to say, Tark, hey, we're a little slimmer. Look, we've got $300 million in cash that we're going to invest in blockchain, NFT, all these buzzwords that you other companies love hearing right now, even if gamers don't. Why don't you come and sniff around? Because we see a bunch of people sniffing around Ubisoft right now, too.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about with Kronos before the show. I think they're kind of cutting that fat stuff maybe that they weren't too happy with. I mean, they're still talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. How it was still disappointing, no matter how many they sell. So maybe they cut off that fat, and now they're positioning themselves to get a kind of deal where Bungie got, where they're still, their own publishers as well, because Square's all into that publishing scene. So.
Yeah, newest girl bringing that up too. The partnerships are different. Things like Just Cause, Life is Strange, Outriders, Babylon's Fall with Platinum Games. Like, those are different. Like, if you were going to buy Square Enix, those aren't even part of the discussion, because those are contracted. We'll be your publisher. You be the developer. Do this. This was selling off the Western studios that Square owned.
Yeah,
like they actually
fully owned those. It's not the partnerships. So I feel that they cut off that fat. They took this money. It's in their coffers. It makes them more attractive. I feel that we might be seeing a Bungie type deal here in the future, maybe in the next 6 months.
It'll be interesting to watch. Square Enix also being sued by Yuji Naka, Alan Wonderworld director. He took to Twitter and basically just went apeshit, gents. I mean, he just went apeshit, saying that, hey, I was removed as the director of Balan Wonderworld about half a year before release, so I filed a lawsuit against Square Enix. Now that the proceedings are over and I'm no longer bound by company rules, I'd like to speak out. And went on to say, I think it's wrong of Square Enix not to value games and game fans. According to court documents, I was removed as the director of Balan Wonderworld for 2 reasons. It was done by the producer, head of marketing, head of sound, managing director, and HR. According to, I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Go check out his Twitter. He just went apeshit. And he said, Square doesn't care about you if you like games. They don't. They don't care about the games anymore. They don't care about you as the player anymore. I was totally done dirty, and I was tossed out 6 months before the game came out, to which I have to say, I played that. I don't think that it's a different game. If you were there for those 6 months, there were core faults already baked into that game at that point. Unless he wants to make the argument that I wouldn't have released it when it released because it wasn't there. So, yeah, improving a game until the very end is what being a game creator is all about. And if that's not possible, something's wrong. I personally regret that Balan Wonderworld was released to the world in an unfinished state. I wanted to consider all kinds of things and release it as a proper action game. I don't think that Square Enix and Arzest values games and their fans. And we really don't know what he sued for. I would guess maybe a wrongful termination type thing, or how it was settled. We don't have those details there. So, but yeah, Yuji Naka blasting Square Tark all over Twitter.
Yeah, there seems to be these two faces of Square. There's the
Yoshi P face and everything else.
There's the Yoshi P face. There's the Yoshi P face. And then Guardians of the Galaxy it's a really good game. And then there's the fully business side, hard, cold numbers. Cash is the king. And I love Square. I love all their properties. Now they have less properties, but it's hard to wrap my head around supporting them when they're acting like this. Like his whole story that he laid out in his posts, it seems really bad. And with this and Marvel's Avengers coming out the way it did, I don't know how to feel about Square sometimes these days, man. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we might be Square Enix fanboys, but it is also important, Kronos, to remember they're a company, okay? And companies generally don't care about you. I wasn't surprised when he said they don't care about games or gamers.
Me neither. That's that's 90% of all game companies.
As a company, they care about making money.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important that we do talk about stuff like this on this show, where it's like, hey, we might give them a lot of credit for different things, but you got to show the other side of that too. There have been companies that have development houses that have gone bankrupt because Square Enix canceled their project and didn't pay them. They have done shitty things in their past too. They will continue to do them in the future if they aren't called out. If they can get away with it, they will, just like other companies. So I did like Yuji Naka coming out and saying something like this, but I also was like, Balan Wonderworld is not the hill you want to die on. That thing was foobarred long before you were let go.
One thing I was intrigued about is that he wanted to make sure that he was allowed to speak at the end of this lawsuit. It was part of his settlement. Yeah. No, I want to be able to speak out. There's no NDA that's going to hold me. I'm going to talk about this. So kudos to him for making sure that, he allowed himself to do that.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head though earlier when you were like, there's two faces of Square. It's Square and then whatever Yoshi P gets to work on.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
It is. Yeah.
Because I think...
And even Yoshi P has said it too. If you go back and watch interviews, he's said things like, I hope that this type of mentality becomes more of the Square Enix mentality. He has literally said that.
If Yoshi P was... I'm going to slightly spoil what we're about to talk about. If it wasn't Yoshi P working on Final Fantasy XVI, that they would have probably already fired 3 people by now. There'd be other people in there moving the game. It would be just like Final Fantasy 15, right? Where stuff's moving around, we got to get it going faster. And because it's Yoshi P, I think they're just let him do what he knows what he's doing, so they let him do it. And I don't think everybody else has that chain. I love Guardians of the Galaxy, but I'm gonna also just assume that was goodbye mistake, to be honest. I think like the people that worked on that game were great. I think they made a great product. I think Square had unrealistic expectations. But I mean, look at how they advertised it. They were sorry, I hit my mic. But they basically didn't even advertise it. It was like all of a sudden here's the game and then it's gonna come out in 3 months.
Yeah, that was a little bizarre.
And it's like and that's Square, right? That's Square doing that. It's the same with what is it Neo. They complained that game failed. Like what it's Babylon's Fall. It's the list goes on.
No, that one did fail.
that crashed.
It's just hard. It feels like Yoshi P is keeping the company afloat to me. I love Square products too, but I'm also on here complaining when they make pixel remasters $30 for games that are $25. Yeah. To me that's a cash grab, but I understand for some people it's worth that money.
So you mentioned Yoshi P and teasing what's up next. Uniqlo and Square Enix have a partnership right now selling some different t-shirts based on Final Fantasy. And in a magazine interview, Yoshi P said that development of the latest title, Final Fantasy XVI, is in its final stages, and then reiterates, this is a single-player game focusing on the individual there, but it is in its final stages. We still expect to see something this spring, probably in the Square Enix Spring Showcase. So we're getting close, gents. We're getting close.
Real close. I'm hoping this year.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Right. Hey, end of April, Square Enix re-upped its trademark in the United States for a classic horror title. No, not that one. Not the Parasite Eve one. Yeah. It is Fear Effect. Now, obviously, they could just re-up this because they want to maintain the name /IP rights and things like that. But you do have a modicum of proof that you're going to do something with it to apply to have those trademarks re-upped. But flip side, counter argument, it's pretty lenient as far as what you need as proof. So are they going to do something with Fear Effect, or are they just protecting the name /IP, Kronos?
I mean, it feels niche enough that they're got to have a plan for it. It's not like Final Fantasy or something big where it's you're whoa, yeah, they got to hold on to that. It's not something that it was even on my radar. So I think the fact that it's on theirs means there's got to be something.
Probably a mobile game.
Probably true.
Like, I say that joking, not joking. Tark.
I'm also not joking.
Pretty good, by the way, for mobile games. Echoes of Mana is pretty good, by the way. Never played it. Don't care about it. Yeah, it's not big enough. What Kronos said, it's not big enough where, you know, they have to re-up it. If they're re-upping it, they've probably got some sort of plan. But I don't care.
Newest Girl says this screams like a game that shows up in a Nintendo Direct randomly. Yeah. Hey, this coming weekend is the Final Fantasy XI 20th anniversary live stream with interviews and stuff galore. It's about 5 hours estimated length. And presumably we will see what the quote-unquote big announcement that they teased 2 years ago was. So I'm sure we will bring that to next week's show on the 12th.
We're not going to go live at 3:30 in the morning?
No, we're not going to. Not for Final Fantasy XI, since I'm the only one of the three of us that cares about it.
I would join you for it. I would say, I'm just saying, I would join you for it. But
I'll just tell you the truth and say I would not join you for that.
So stay tuned. We'll find out this weekend. Let's head over and do Love It or Leave It. Love It or Leave It is the segment we end every show with, where I give you something Final Fantasy or Square Enix related, and you tell me whether you love it, want more of it, or leave it, cast it aside, and get rid of it. And I'm going to put it all on Final Fantasy XIV's PvP, gentlemen. As a whole, you got to make the call right now. Look, this development time isn't worth it. Shut it down. We could use that time and money in better ways. Or Crystalline Conflict has boosted your morale enough that it is okay to continue development and spend into Final Fantasy XIV's PvP scene. Kronos, Love It or Leave It, PvP, Final Fantasy XIV.
So I think we had PvP in the Love It or Leave It segment at some point months ago.
We did, but now we gotta revisit. We gotta revisit.
I know. I think I said love it back then. So if I don't say love it now, that's probably a weird red flag.
Weird.
But no, I love it. I think they finally hit something that makes sense, and it does need to be better. But I'm glad that it seems like they're on the right track now. And so, yeah, I love it. I'm glad they're spending development time. It seems like it's actually working. So,
Tark?
I love it. I think they nailed it. If they didn't, they probably should just abandon it completely, but they nailed it, so they should probably keep going with it. I think they found something special here. You know, I never spent hours in a row playing PvP in 14, and now I found myself doing that on several different days. So I'm all about it now. It's good. I love it.
We said on this show that Crystalline Conflict was it. Like they either nail it or they stop. That was it. There was no gray area for us. And as much as I might not spend as much time as the two of you in it, I will spend time in it. And that is a far cry better than what was already there. I got to go love it too. It may not be the be-all, end-all for me. I may not be as enjoying it as much as the two of you and as many others are, but I can recognize when they've done something good, and I won't feel bad about grinding in this when I have to for various minions and shit like that. It might not be part of my daily personal Final Fantasy XIV rotation, but I won't be too sad when I have to play it for a little while here and there, and that's already a marked improvement in my book. So I'm going to have to go with love it, even though it might not be my favorite piece of content. That's going to do it for today's Relic Grind. Remember, we will be back next Thursday on our normal schedule, Thursdays. That'll be the 12th of May, and then the 19th of May, we have Rook, Ginger Prime, and Fusion squaring off in Final Fantasy Jeopardy to lock in that third spot in the finals of our Tournament of Champions. Gaming Gumbo will resume this Saturday at 7 p.m. as well. Until next time, Kronos, where can everybody find you?
Same as always, Twitter, where I'll probably just be like posting about the Ultimate and being frustrated, but like in a good way. So, I just realized we missed the best part of 6.1, Adventure Blades. We didn't even touch on it.
Yeah, we didn't because that is that's all that the game is now.
Yeah.
That's
all it is.
It's the true end game.
They actually nailed them. They fucking nailed those.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about those later. Go ahead, Tark. Where can everybody find you?
Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all at Tarkov Gaming. Come hang out as I go into Ultimates like right after the show. Love to have you.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there at Magic Man 1, but more importantly, follow at RC Radio, RAIDEO on Twitter, and you'll know every time we go live with a podcast or one of our volunteer streamers. Until next time, gang, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers. Later.